You're listening to episode 37 of the Fed and Fearless podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing with you how I'm sticking to my core values and protecting my physical, mental, and spiritual health while working to unpack my own racial prejudices and problematic behaviors and taking action to create a more diverse nutrition and dietetics field. This is a pretty raw episode, but it comes straight from my heart, and I hope it'll inspire you to take action to pursue justice and mercy in a humble way. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian and coach trained in functional medicine with a passion for helping women just like you ditch perfectionism and use food, fitness, and self-care to fuel your bigger God-given purpose. I believe that it's possible to achieve your biggest life-changing goals without the frustration, obsession, or negative self-talk that so many women subject themselves to every day. All you need are the right tools, the right mindset, and the faith to turn your dreams into reality. I'm here to guide you along the way. The truth is that you are so much more than a body, and I'm on a mission to help you change the way you think and act at a core beliefs level, so you can transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health from the inside out. Are you ready to become fed and fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, meaningful life? Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm your host as always, and today, I'm going to have a little bit of a shorter episode. The date that I am recording this is June 16th, and I believe that this episode is going to be coming out in about 2 weeks or so, towards the end of June. So there's a lot going on in the world today and a lot of things happening very quickly that someone like me who batch records their podcast episodes does not always have the opportunity to address. And something that I've always committed to with this podcast is really trying to keep it as timeless as possible, which means not necessarily talking about current events. And that doesn't mean that I don't want to be talking about things that affect people on the whole. And there are a lot of different things out there in the world, especially in the year of 2020, that are affecting people in different ways. So I always want to be addressing that stuff for you because my goal is to help you become the most healthy and wholehearted person that you can become. And part of that is taking care of your physical health. And an even bigger part of that is taking care of your mental and spiritual health. And unfortunately, with everything that's going on in the world today, things that might have been easier to either ignore or just kind of focus on yourself, a lot of this stuff isn't really possible anymore, at least right now. I don't know how things are going to change in the future, and I'm certainly not encouraging self-centeredness. However, I know that for the majority of the people I work with, including my business coaching clients, a lot of times trying to keep up with current events can be extremely exhausting, and trying to be thinking about all the different perspectives out there, all the different experiences out there is difficult. And it is easier to just focus on yourself and what you're doing. And, whether it's your business or your family or, basically anything that's going on in your life, we all have a lot happening. And this isn't necessarily an excuse for not paying attention to what's going on in other people's lives, but it's one of these things where many of us have had a little bit of tunnel vision going on with whatever's going on in our lives. And I hope that what this podcast can offer is an opportunity to be able to stop focusing so much on yourself and to be able to look at the world around you and see how you can make the world a better place. That's honestly one of the biggest focuses of this podcast, is to help you figure out how to take care of your body and your health in a way that allows you to look at other people's needs and to do the things that you're called to do in the world. So that's why I felt that on this podcast episode today that I should address at least a little bit of what's going on in the world around us, especially in the United States, which again, I don't know what's going to be going on the day that this podcast comes out, but at least up to today, the month of June, there's just been a lot happening and a lot of people feeling very hurt and feeling scared and feeling that they're not being listened to and feeling that their voice doesn't matter. And my goal is to always help everybody in my audience, no matter who you are, what your skin color is, what your ethnic background or religious beliefs are. My goal is to help everybody be able to share their voice, be able to make a difference in the world, be able to care for themselves appropriately, and to be able to help others as well. Because again, if you're only focusing on yourself when it comes to health, and if you're only thinking about how do I get a six pack or how do I, have perfect skin or whatever it is that we're doing with our health goals, it's really easy to get 100% self-focused. And that really limits our ability to not only have empathy for other people's struggles, but also to even be paying attention to them. It's really impossible to have empathy if you're not even paying attention to what other people are dealing with. So again, I want you guys to be able to look outside of yourselves, stop focusing so much on your body and really start looking at the world around you and listening to other people's challenges, taking other people's perspectives and just being willing to stay open-minded and being willing to see things from other people's viewpoints and being able to use your empathy and your care for others as a stimulus for actually taking action in a way that feels aligned with what you believe is true and what you believe is appropriate. So I know I'm being a little bit vague here. I think I don't want to come across as not being supportive of the Black community or, being okay with any sort of systemic racism that's going on, any sort of systemic white supremacy that's going on. I think there are definitely cases where even as a nutritionist, having been in a dietetics program and in a master's of public health, that's the degree that I got. So in my public health education, there was kind of this weird combination of wanting to help people in poverty be healthier, but then also, I always thought it was kind of obvious. And you guys, if you've been following me for the last several years, you know that I've always been pushing against the dietary guidelines and the way that the traditional public health practices were going into these multi-ethnic communities and trying to change their diet to look more like a Western white person's diet. So I for sure believe that there is a lot of white supremacy in the field of public health. And again, not from a hating other races perspective, but from a we know best and let us fix you kind of perspective. And that's something that I have always been uncomfortable with and really speaking out against in terms of the nutrition field in general. And I don't want to turn this into like a tirade against things like the dietary guidelines or the way that the government has stepped in and told people what's best for them, even though they don't actually have good information that they're sharing in a lot of cases. But this is something that I have seen for, close to a decade now that I've been doing this stuff in nutrition online. And I don't think I ever really thought of it as white supremacy because that's just not a term that I was other than, the traditional white supremacists like Nazis and stuff, I wasn't really thinking of those systems as specifically being white supremacy. But it is something that now that I've been doing more reading and research and listening to Black people's experiences and other Black people in the field of nutrition and dietetics and watching movies, documentaries, seeing the different ways that what we might be seeing as a good thing, like, in the public health world, a lot of people thought, oh, it's a good thing to go into these communities and, I'm heavy air quotes, help them get healthier by telling them to, not use fat back in their collard greens or not to use whole milk and to switch to skim milk. Those kind of interventions that we were coming in the public health world, coming into communities of a variety of different, again, ethnicities, socioeconomic statuses, coming into these communities and telling them that these were the appropriate ways to change. And like I said, I've known for a while that this was not okay. And it was something that I was very open sharing about my perspective on it. It was not a popular perspective. And like I said, I certainly wasn't talking about it from a lens of how white supremacy shows up in our systems. But again, now that I've been doing more research and reading, I am seeing that now. And it's making me even more, outspoken about the ways that our society has really just taken it upon themselves to try to make other people do things the way that we think that they should be done. And like I said, you all know I'm a little bit of a, or at least maybe you should know at this point that I'm a little bit of a feather ruffler, and I'm not afraid to take controversial viewpoints. I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I'm not afraid to, look at multiple angles and, compare those angles to my core values, which, the core values I hope don't really change, at least, the real deep ones that are things like the freedom of religion, the freedom of choosing healthcare practices that are best for you and your family, the freedom to, start a business and to be an entrepreneur. All of these freedoms that we have in this country are things that are part of my core values as a person. And it's something that over the last couple weeks, as I've been learning more about the ways that our society has been set up, I'm learning that not everybody truly feels that they have this freedom, whether they actually don't have the freedom or it's a perception of whether or not they have the freedom. I don't really care. The fact is that people do not feel that they have the freedom that they deserve to pursue the life that they want to have, to take care of themselves the way that they want to take care of themselves, to have truthful information shared with them about things like health. And, I could just stick with the health piece. I don't necessarily have to go into any other category to make this point. But I want everybody, no matter what their skin color, no matter what their economic status, I want them to have the opportunity to learn truth and to apply that truth to their own lives so that they can be as healthy and as happy and productive and purpose-driven as they desire to be. So that's always been a very strong core value of mine. And again, and I will admit fault here that I was not paying attention to this, but I did not realize the extent of certain systems that are getting in the way of people of color, Black people, brown people, however we want to talk about any sort of non-white ethnicity. I did not realize that there was things that were big barriers to those people having the same access and opportunities that I've had as a white person. So I'm sharing this with you. It's a little bit of a ramble, and hopefully you all are hearing my heart in this, because I know that there's a lot of assumptions being made in the online space right now about what people believe and what they're doing behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, how they're responding to the Black community and what they're asking for. So I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I am certainly not an anti-racism educator, so please do not follow me for that. There's lots of other resources those are the experts. I am not an expert in anti-racism. I'm a student now because I realize that it's something that I do need to be learning about, even though, it's not something that is immediately affecting me in my life. I will admit that. I live in a pretty relaxed suburban community outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. And, if you're not watching the news or you're not participating in a lot of social media conversation, it's kind of easy to stay in that bubble. And like I said, I'm not making an excuse for that. It's just one of these things where growing my business has, especially this year, I'm kind of laughing because this year has just been very different year compared to any other year I've ever experienced, as I'm sure a lot of you can agree with that. Just wanting to grow my business and wanting to make some pivots in my business and wanting to learn new ways of approaching entrepreneurship so that I could help others with that same goal. I had to really turn off the news, especially with all the COVID stuff happening earlier in the year. I really was like, I cannot handle following the news right now because it's stressing me out. It's exhausting me. I wasn't really a news watcher in general for really for my whole life. I've never really been very interested in consuming a ton of news because, one, I tend to be somewhat of an emotionally sensitive person, and seeing other people angry or upset or, seeing violence on the news, that kind of stuff really, really affects me negatively. Even just the past couple weeks, physically has been exhausting for me to see not only the violence that people are experiencing, but also just the arguments and the anger and everything online. And I'm not tone policing. I don't want anyone to think that I don't think people should be allowed to be angry or anything like that. It's just, having been someone who has kind of sheltered myself a little bit from things like the news, like politics, that kind of stuff, because I react so physically strong to it. The goal was to protect my mental health and my physical health so that I could serve my clients and you all, anyone who's listening to my content for free. I really was trying to protect my energy so I could show up well for you. And unfortunately, the negative effect of that is that it was really easy for me to not be listening to stories of injustice and things that I could potentially have an influence on. So, I've just realized over the last couple of weeks that being completely tunnel visioned into the work that I'm doing and, learning about entrepreneurship, learning about how to apply that to the nutrition world and how to help others help, a bigger audience of people with their health needs, and to make sure that women's health is represented well, and to make sure that spiritual and mental health are also part of the equation. All of that stuff that I've had a goal to talk about, I don't feel can be talked about in a complete way without taking into account things like racism, things like poverty, things like, just different beliefs that people that have grown up in a less culturally diverse kind of environment, things that we believe about the world and things. And I say I actually had a fairly diverse upbringing where I lived in New Jersey, though it was more diverse when it came to various Asian and South Asian, like Indian cultures, that kind of thing. But, we didn't have a lot of Black people at my school. We didn't have a lot of Hispanic people at my school. I did live in a wealthy area of New Jersey growing up. So there was obviously an economic divide there. So it's not like my school was all white, but I definitely didn't have exposure to any sort of people that were experiencing poverty or anything like that. So just having grown up in that environment, it's something that I didn't even think about. And because of my aversion to the news, I was happily ignorant about a lot of the things that people were experiencing. And again, over the last couple of weeks, I've forced myself to start listening, because again, it's not something that I am naturally inclined to do. And I'm, again, not making apologies for it. I don't know if I can say that enough. All I'm saying is that because of the way that I physically respond to news and how much it affects my health and my mental well-being, it was something that I was purposefully ignoring over the last, definitely the last 6 months. I don't know if I can really think of a time that I was super involved with this stuff. I think the last time I remember being especially averse to the news was the last election that we had. So kind of since then, I've just kind of been happy to not really be paying attention to it and really be focusing on the things that I feel called to serve people in. And again, I'm not saying that that's okay. I also think that different people need to set different boundaries with their mental health. So if you're someone who feels like they need to tune out the news or turn off social media for a period of time because you're getting overwhelmed by it, I also think that it's okay to take a break and to not feel like you have to be on. I was looking at my phone. My phone tracks how much time I'm spending on social media. And I got an alert a couple days ago saying that I'd been on the phone, or I'd been on social media. I don't know. Was it social media? It might've been screen time on my phone in general. I think it was screen time. I got an alert that said my screen time over the past week was an average of like 4.5 hours a day just on my phone. And that's not even including the screen that I use, my computer, because that's the screen that I use for doing work. But my screen time on my phone was 4 hours on average a little over 4 hours last week. And I was just like, whoa, that is not normal for me. That's really not okay. And it was showing up in a lot of emotional, mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion. I'm prone to more, and I'm like kind of laughing here because even saying the word adrenal fatigue is not really the best phrase for this, but I tend to have a very sensitive nervous system. Not really sure why, because I think it's maybe just genetics or something, but because I tend to try to push myself into situations where I'm uncomfortable or I'm out of just generally out of my comfort zone, or, kind of getting into situations where I'm testing my limits. So that's something that is a value of mine. But when it comes to my actual nervous system activity, I do tend to be very sensitive. And so I have just noticed that over the last couple of weeks, trying to get fire hosed with all this information to do my best to stay informed and to hear other people's perspectives has been taking a toll physically and mentally on me. And so the only reason why I'm sharing this stuff with you is because I think, having spoken with a variety of my clients, more of my business coaching clients than my health coaching clients, but a lot of my business coaching clients have felt the same way. These are very highly empathetic, like want to make the world a better place, care about others, care about social injustices, that kind of thing. And a lot of people have expressed feeling overwhelmed and exhausted and physically not well with everything that's been going on. And it is something that, I just want to share that with you. So if you're feeling that way, you don't feel like there's something wrong with you. Because again, you're human. Your nervous system is not designed to handle this kind of situation. Nobody's is. So no matter what race you are, gender you are, whatever your faith beliefs are, I can guarantee that your nervous system is not set up to handle this stuff. Now, if it's stuff that you're more used to because you live in a more diverse community, or you are a Black person, or you are a person of color that's experienced racism directly, I'm not saying that that's okay. What I'm saying is that this probably doesn't surprise you, all this stuff. And it doesn't, the level of violence that's been happening recently is not something that any of you would be, surprised by. And again, being surprised is something that is a privilege. That if any of us felt like, wow, I didn't realize it was this bad, it's because we didn't have to deal with it. And that in and of itself is a privilege, to not have to deal with that kind of situation. So all I'm saying is that if you're someone who had been kind of keeping your head down, working on, growing a business, or working in your career, or working on, raising a family, if that was you and all of this stuff feels like you're getting fire hosed, I encourage you to kind of take a step back. That doesn't mean stop, right? I'm not saying just ignore it, put your head in the sand, because that's not helpful, and that's not kind. And that's not, from a faith-based perspective, that's not what Jesus would do. But I do want to give you permission to limit how much you're exposing yourself to all at once, because I do think that again, our nervous systems are not designed to deal with this. And I actually feel like if you get too much information all at once, too much differing opinions, too much, emotional, and again, all of this stuff is emotional. So we can't say that, oh, I'm just learning and getting educated without feeling emotional. I know, as an example, I actually watched two different movies in the last 2 weeks. One of them was the 13th documentary, which I would highly recommend watching that to understand how the criminal justice system has really been used to suppress Black people and poor people in general. And unfortunately, that doesn't surprise me because of the way that I perceive the government and some of the government overstepping that has been happening over the last really probably at least the last several decades. Really almost the whole century of the 1900s was kind of an example of the government overstepping its bounds and making rules about things that were harming more than what they were helping. So the 13th documentary explains how the criminal justice system is actually built on the desire to keep Black people enslaved, essentially. That's my perception of what that documentary was explaining. And And it's really shocking how both Democrat and Republican presidents and administrations were making rules that were, making it harder for Black people to not end up in prison, essentially. So it's a pretty intense documentary, and that was an emotional thing to watch. It, was very upsetting, especially watching some of the things that have happened to innocent Black men that had not done anything wrong, but still ended up in prison because of racist people in power. So that was pretty emotional to watch. And then another movie I watched was Just Mercy. And that one was very emotional for me as well. And in fact, being a little bit vulnerable here, there's a couple of real life scenes at the end of that film in the credits where they're showing actual footage from real people that the movie was showing their story. And I actually legit burst out crying watching one of the scenes with one of the prisoners who had been falsely accused and falsely imprisoned and was kept in basically on death row simply because he was Black. And that's not an arguable fact. That actually was the reason that he was put into jail and kept there. So I was very emotionally affected by both of those, both the documentary and the movie. And, realized that, and again, I don't want to make any assumptions for anyone, but I realized that a lot of Black people probably have to deal with these emotions regularly because it's in their community or it's in their family, or they're seeing people that look like them being treated this way. And it would, I completely understandably cause fear, cause stress, cause emotional distress as well. So, me feeling those emotions is not something that I've had to feel in my day-to-day life, which I am very blessed to have had that situation be the case. But it is something where, for me, trying to take on learning about this stuff at the pace that I had started over the last 2 weeks was really affecting me physically. And I realized it just wasn't something I could keep up with at that pace. Not to mention, I recently just launched a business coaching program where I have 30 people that I'm leading through a new program that I'm developing, and had literally our first class was on June 1st. And it was when all this stuff really came to a head. And a big part of me really wanted to learn and listen and research and, stop ignoring what was going on, because I didn't feel like that was appropriate to continue ignoring stuff. And I also recognized that I had to make some decisions around how much time I was spending learning and how much I was exposing myself to because of the negative impacts on my mental and emotional and physical health, and the way that it was negatively impacting my ability to show up for my clients that just invested in working with me and were looking to me to, show up with my full energy and show up and serve them the way that I had committed to doing. So the reason I'm sharing all this with you, my goal is not to center myself in this whole thing. I know that's a criticism of a lot of people, that when they respond to what's going on with their own stories, if they're white, that it's not appropriate. And I have a variety of different people that are going to be coming on the podcast in the next couple months, because one of the things I am committed to is getting more diversity on this podcast so that people can see a variety of different types of expertise, different perspectives. And that includes Black people. So Black health experts, Black mindset experts. That's one of the ways that I am doing what I can to contribute to the elimination of any sort of racial prejudice or systemic racism that prevents Black and people of color from working towards the life that they want to have, just the way that I feel like I've had the opportunity to work towards it. So that is something that I'm going to be doing, is having diversity be a value of the podcast, not just thinking, who do I know that is good at this topic, and really not even thinking about diversity as part of the goal for the podcast. So that's one of the actions that I'm taking that I feel will contribute to providing opportunities to people of all skin colors, and just being able to show that there's expertise beyond just the white female friends that I have. And that's something that I'm committed to. And I do apologize if the guests so far have made it seem like I only am looking for that type of person, or that that's the only person that is safe or is represented on this podcast, because that is absolutely not my intention. And I will be doing what I can to correct that. So that is coming in the pipeline. I share it with you because, again, I batch my podcast episodes and I have a team that does my editing, and we already have a bunch of podcasts that they have edited and will be producing and will be sharing on the podcast over the next couple of weeks. So unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit of a lag time to get that diversity showing up in the episodes. But I just wanted to let you know that it's coming. So, I hope you'll stay tuned for that. I'm really excited to have the particular experts that I've already secured for interviews. They're really awesome and they have a lot of wisdom to share. So I'm excited to have that extra diversity being brought to the show, because it's about time for my podcast. Anyway, that was a little bit of a random thing that I just went down. And again, I just kind of jumped on the mic today to chat with you guys. I didn't really prepare for this episode. I literally put a little note in my content calendar that said, talk about race ? So again, because I am a white person that has grown up in middle class, upper middle class kind of neighborhoods, and haven't had to deal with a lot of the issues that come up in poverty. I've had some minimal exposure to it through my graduate program, specifically through working with the Interfaith Food Shuttle, which was a really cool experience and gave me a taste of, the ways to actually support Black people and support inner city communities with taking care of themselves, rather than coming in and forcing them to do what we think is good for them as dietitians, which again, I think that's a real problem that us dietitians need to recognize. And and just on that note, another thing that I am doing, and I'm not saying this to be like, oh, brush my shoulders off, I'm so awesome. I'm really just sharing it so you guys, especially if you're a dietitian, but if you're anyone who wants to support the diversification of the field of nutrition, which I think is a really important goal for all of us, bringing more diversity into the world of dietetics in general is something that I realize needs support. And so there is a organization called Diversify Dietetics that I am going to be contributing financially to on a monthly recurring basis. And we'll make sure to put their link in the show notes. So if you want to contribute to that organization as well, you can do that. And what their mission is to help increase opportunities for Black and other people of color to get into the field of dietetics, which is notoriously, I think it's like 90% white and probably about that much percentage female as well. And that was what I experienced going through my program. And, unfortunately, that's why when I go to bring on RDs onto the show, there isn't enough diversity in the field in general. And that doesn't mean it's an excuse on my part. It just means that I realized it's not enough to just find, different ethnicity experts to bring on the show. It's also my responsibility to help make the field more accessible to a wide variety of ethnicities and skin colors and socioeconomic statuses. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail about this, but I do think that the overall RD program setup, it does not help people that do not have a pretty good safety net financially. I'll just leave it at that. Getting through the RD program and the 1,200-hour unpaid internship was only possible for me because I was able to work part-time, and I also lived with my parents during my internship for a good part of it. So if anyone doesn't have those things accessible to them for any reason, then to get a dietetic degree in the first place is very difficult. So again, my desire is to make the field of dietetics more diverse. I think that'll improve the field in general, make it much less, centered on white beliefs and white ethnic practices, and bring more diversity of types of cuisines and food practices and all that into the field, which I think has been sorely needed for decades at this point. So there's that. And then there's also the idea that once we are and I shouldn't say once we are bringing more diversity, because there's definitely enough diversity that I can bring on more diverse experts. But I also want to, make sure my platform is open and available to anyone who has a good message to share. And again, my goal is to seek out people of color, Black people that can come on and share their expertise from a different perspective than what I would have as a white female. So that's what I'm doing, amongst other things. And with all of that, I also, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, realize that I cannot be fire hosing myself with learning and, being on social media and all of that, because it is harmful to my mental, physical, and spiritual health. And so really, I am looking for a way to do my part to continue to unpack any personal biases or points of ignorance that I've had that I wasn't really paying attention to, and also giving myself permission to continue focusing on the work I'm doing to support nutrition business owners of all ethnicities, to, share a message that helps. I know I tend to focus primarily on women, but even just helping women understand their bodies better and to be able to speak up for themselves and to have bodily autonomy and the decisions they make around their health. All of these things are still my mission. And, for me personally, I do need to continue focusing on that stuff if I'm going to continue making a difference and being able to function mentally when I'm showing up for my clients and my students and all of you. So I thought this was going to be a short podcast. I guess it's not too long. This is like very much stream of consciousness. I rarely do this kind of thing for my podcast episodes because, one, I tend to be a rambler, and two, I don't know. I mean, I guess I like to be a little bit more polished and prepared for episodes when I jump on the mic, especially because I never want anyone to, get the wrong impression of my motives or, believe things about me that are not true, or not that I can prevent that, honestly. That's something that I've also realized in the last couple of weeks that, from a spiritual perspective, when I'm making choices about how to show up in times of crisis like this, in times of pain and conflict and all of that, there is going to be people that misinterpret my reactions and believe things about me that are not true. And I can't control that. So something that I have really stuck with over the last couple weeks is knowing that God knows my heart when I'm sharing stuff. God knows, my perspective. He knows my desires. He knows the reason why I'm sharing things. I do my best to check in with him before I share stuff. I don't always do that, which is definitely something I need to work on for sure. Because sometimes I get a little reactive and I want to share stuff and I don't always step back and ask myself, why am I sharing that? Is it really because I think I'm helping people, or is it because I'm reacting in pride or anger or whatever kind of the emotion is that I don't want to be reacting from? So that's something that I'm always working on. I mean, that's not new for me. I definitely have struggled with different, I call them sins. You can call them whatever you want, but different sins like pride, like, me just thinking my way is the better way. And so that's something I'm always trying to challenge and always trying to catch myself, or if I do it and then I can apologize if I feel like I did do something that was harmful. So that's my heart with all of the stuff that I share. And I hope you all are hearing that. And I also want to hear from you guys. I really want to know if there's things that I'm doing that are not helpful or are hurting anybody or are ignoring certain people for different reasons. If you feel that way, please feel free to reach out to me via DM. I would prefer it if it was in a constructive, critical way. And listen, if somebody wants to attack me, that's their right. But if the goal is to make me feel bad about myself, then that's not something I tolerate. And I don't tolerate when people do it to my clients. I don't tolerate when people do it to my friends, my family. And I really don't want you all to tolerate someone belittling you or, making assumptions about you and, being unkind to you because of those assumptions. I think there are, there's definitely an air of defensiveness that a lot of people, white people, lots of different races of people are, reacting in right now that I really hope I can avoid. I will say that I definitely am not perfect in that area. I can get defensive when I feel like I'm being misunderstood. But what I want you all to know is that I do care about your input. I do care about, how you're feeling and if you feel like I'm supporting you well, and if you don't feel like I'm supporting you and there's ways that I could support you better, I want to hear about it. So feel free to DM me on Instagram. My handle is @LauraSchoenfeld_RD. I am always open to hearing alternative perspectives. I think regardless of the core values that I have and the religious or faith-based beliefs that I have, I always want to respect people. And I always want to be open to hearing their side of the story. And whether that means I'm going to agree with them or not is, TBD. Sometimes I hear alternative perspectives and I don't think that that's, accurate or truthful or really grounded in what I believe to be the deepest level of truth that I cling to in my own life. But that doesn't mean that I'm unwilling to even hear what somebody's perspective is or that I'm going to disrespect them in response to disagreeing with their opinion. So I'm open to it all. I think sometimes I get into a little trouble because I assume other people are open to it all as well and don't realize that things that I share are very triggering and can make people upset. But my goal is always to seek truth and to seek human rights and to protect everybody's right to live the life that they desire to live, provided that they're not harming others. And I just want to hear from you if there's anything that you'd like to share with me or if there's any resources that you suggest. I've gotten some really awesome videos and different things from people who have either followed my blog or on my newsletter in response to some of the stuff I've sent out. I've gotten to learn even more because people were willing to share stuff with me. So if that's you and you want to share something with me, I'm happy to hear it. I'm super open to that. And I'm open to receiving any constructive criticism, constructive feedback that you have of the work that I'm doing, because I want it to be the best work that I can do. And if that means that I need to do something differently to improve what I'm doing, then I'm absolutely open to it. So just like I said, I would love to hear from you. I do ask that it's with the goal of mutual respect, because I think there's a shocking lack of respect in the world right now. It's actually something that kind of makes me kind of have to turn off some voices that I used to listen to or people that I used to follow, that when I see how they're reacting in this circumstance, being completely disrespectful and even just aggressive towards other people, that's when I turn things off. I don't turn it off if I disagree with you. I don't turn it off if I think you're wrong or I think you're, sharing something that's inaccurate. But I do turn it off when somebody is being, purposefully hurtful and looking to cause harm rather than looking to solve a problem. So I don't think any of you are those type of people that are looking to cause harm. I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast if you were somebody who had a goal of causing harm or putting other people down to make yourself feel better. But, there's a lot of that happening right now. So, I think we all need to stay open to other people's perspectives, other people's lived experiences, and to recognize that there's a lot of people right now, Black people in particular, feeling a lot of pain. And I don't personally want to turn away from that. I want to turn towards it and ask, how can I help you not have this pain? Or how can I help you feel that you're being listened to? Or how can I support you so that you have the same opportunities that I've had as a white person? And that's my perspective, and take it or leave it, I guess. Because I've had a couple of conversations with people recently talking about, I'm like an equal opportunity feather ruffler. So a lot of people do not feel that I am, I don't even know what the word is. I'm definitely not politically correct. I'm definitely not someone who's just going to follow whatever everyone else is doing because I'm trying to fit in. I do not let culture determine my actions and my words and my choices. And hopefully that's why you guys follow me, because you appreciate being countercultural and looking to God to really direct your behavior and not culture. But unfortunately, right now, there is a lot of hatred and anger being directed at anyone who's not falling in line with the cultural shifts or the cultural messaging that's happening right now. So I know that's really cryptic. I'm not going to necessarily give a ton of details because, I want you all to just to feel empowered to do your own research and learn your own, learn things for yourself. And if you are a Christian, know that you have the Holy Spirit to check things against, and that you can trust that, and that you don't have to fall in line with what culture is demanding of you, even if it goes against your beliefs in what God says. So I hope that this is encouraging to you. It's a really delicate balance to strike right now when you desire to support your Black friends and family, or I guess maybe not family, or family. I guess it could be family, but your Black friends, your Black community members, Black people in general in our country. You can desire to help them have their voices heard, help them have the same access to opportunities that anyone would have, to help protect them and protect their lives, and to recognize that their lives are not being treated the way that they should be treated right now. We can all agree with that. And we can also hold the perspective that there are certain political organizations that are, popular right now that are promoting things like Marxism, which, if you know anything about Marxism, it's very anti-religion and also anti-capitalism, which for me, those are like the two things that I am, core value, committed to protecting somebody's right to their religious beliefs and their right to pursue entrepreneurship, small business ownership, large business ownership, capitalism, all the stuff that I think allows humans to really create their best work and to serve the world most effectively. So if there's an organization that's promoting Marxism and promoting the dismantling of the family unit and promoting, or even challenging certain things around gender that I don't necessarily agree with, then I personally cannot support that particular organization. And if you feel that way too, just know you're not alone. It's certainly not a popular opinion right now to feel that way, but just know that I've had a lot of people, I've spoken with a lot of people of a variety of different ethnicities that feel the same way, that they cannot support certain organizations because of their, their political beliefs or their, beliefs about things like religion and gender and family and economics and all of that stuff that, people have a right to desire that and to believe that, but I don't believe it and I can't support it. So that's a very cryptic way of saying that, of course, I believe that Black Lives Matter, and I am committed to doing anything that I can to express that and to create equal opportunity and equal representation, and, to treat the Black people that are in my life and that are in my community and in the world around me, that I am fully committed to treating them the same way that I would treat anyone else, to treat them with respect, to know that they have infinite value. They're created in the image of God and they deserve to be treated that way just like anybody else. And if they're not being treated that way, then we need to figure out why. And we need to work to dismantle any systems that are causing any Black person to feel like their life does not matter. So anyway, this is probably about the most political podcast episode I will ever do. Hopefully. I really hope so, because I really do not like getting into politics. I have a lot of really controversial opinions that I don't think, well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't make assumptions about what people think or don't think, but I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm here to talk about health. I'm here to talk about entrepreneurship. I know that race and racial injustice affects people's health and it affects their ability to grow a business. And that's what I want to figure out, is how can I help that not be the case? I will continue to share resources that I am finding to be valuable and helpful, and shared in a way that's respectful. And that doesn't mean that they're Pollyanna or like super positive. It just means that they're not shared in a way that the goal is to tear down or destroy anybody else. And so hopefully you guys can continue following me and keep getting some of that stuff from me as I continue to prioritize it. And I'm also going to keep talking about, health stuff, women's health, entrepreneurship, mindset work, all of the stuff that I'm learning from my mentors, things that I've learned from working with hundreds of clients at this point, and things that I think will help you become someone who has the physical, mental, and emotional bandwidth to look outside yourself and to serve others that need your help. So all of that said, I am kind of laughing at myself because I said this was going to be a short episode, and it definitely wasn't. I hope that this was valuable. I don't know if it was. I think, it just was a little cathartic to me to share, and to share in a way that I hope expresses my desire to make the world a better place while also not being willing to completely trash my core values. And that's something that I want all of you to feel empowered to do as well. I'm here for you. I'm here to chat about it. Please DM me if you listen to this episode and it was helpful. Let me know. If you disagree with me, let me know. If you think there's something I'm missing, let me know. And I just want to hear from you. So all of that said, like I said, I've already batched a variety of interviews, and I have some really awesome Black and other people of color on the interview pipeline that I'm really excited to share with you. One of the reasons why I did this episode myself rather than bringing someone else on to talk is because a lot of Black people are kind of getting inundated with requests to come on and talk about race, and I didn't want to be contributing to that expectation. I think, this is my podcast, and I have a responsibility to show up and lead and teach in the best way that I can. And I also want to bring a bigger diversity of ethnicities, genders, because literally James Wedmore was the first man that I had on the show. So I do want to start bringing in different genders for different perspectives. And when I bring Black experts on, I'm going to let them talk about what their expertise is in. I'm not going to expect them to talk about race unless they want to. And, I want to treat them the same way that I would treat a white expert and say, hey, what's your expertise? What do you have to share with the world? Let's talk about what you want to talk about. And if that includes race, cool. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. I'm not going to, expect them to, be the ones that come on and discuss racial injustice and racial disparity. So that's kind of another side note. I don't know if that is going to, fly with people, or if that's going to be something that you think is wrong. Like I said, I'm doing what I think is right. And I just want to make sure that people always believe that their voice matters, and that they're I'm respecting them the same way that I would respect anyone else. And that, I want to have them be perceived as a professional, because that's what they are. And the one thing I did want to mention, this was something I put in I did a blog post called Justice, Mercy, and Humility. It's from June 8th. It's on my Laura Schoenfeld RD website if you want to check it out. It's a black heart on a white background with the image if you want to look for it. One of the things that I do want to make sure people remember is that our beliefs and the words that we use and what we speak to ourselves and others is very, very influential on the way that we act and the way that we perceive other people's actions. And so that's why I do always want to be really mindful of what I say on this platform, on my social media, when I'm working with clients. I am always wanting to make sure that I am not saying anything that's going to create a belief in someone's mind that then affects their ability to take action or the way that they perceive other people's actions. There's a guy, a really awesome Instagram entrepreneur. He's a Black man named Stephen Bartlett, who I found out about this week when I was looking for a more diverse feed. And he's got some really awesome stuff. So we'll link to him. He's just at Stephen on Instagram. Kind of, I'm a little jealous of that, that handle. I wish I was at Laura. That would make my life a little easier. But Stephen Bartlett has a really awesome post that I shared in this blog post talking about a phenomenon called labeling theory. And that's a theory in psychology where the labels you give someone become self-fulfilling. That means how we label ourselves and others is going to affect the actions that we take, the actions that they take, and the way that we treat each other. So no matter what I do and no matter what I say and no matter what my actions are, I never want to use words that cause anyone to feel less than or to feel ashamed of the person that God created them to be. So there are some things I refuse to talk about. There's some words that I refuse to use because there is a lot of language being used online right now that's ending up doing more harm than good because it perpetuates negative self-image and shame. And, I can talk about certain systems being rooted in white supremacy without assuming that all white people are white supremacists, as an example. So it's one of these things where, and again, you can disagree with me if you don't believe that that's accurate, but I really want to be careful that we're not using shame or using negative self-image to try to change behavior. And I certainly don't ever want any Black people to believe that I think I'm better than them in any sort of way. So, if you're expecting me to say certain words or use certain phrases, I explained to you before, there's some, beliefs that I have and things that I am very concerned about that are attached to those phrases that I don't want to perpetuate. And if you're not okay with that, that's fine. You can unfollow me. And if you want to hear more about why I'm doing that and you want to have a conversation with me, like I said, just feel free to send me a DM on an Instagram and I'm happy to have a conversation with you. Okay, that is it for today. I am definitely, I think I've shared with you what I'm feeling and got some things off my chest. And also, hopefully it was clear that I was apologizing and repenting for any behavior that I've done in the past on this show, on my platform in general, that would have made anyone feel like they didn't belong or that I wasn't going to care about their circumstances. And again, if there's ways that I can do this better, definitely let me know. And I hope that no matter what your race or skin color or religious perspective or gender, whatever that is, I hope that I can at least respect you, because that's always my goal. And I hope that my content that I'm sharing is valuable to you in some way. I know it won't be valuable to everybody, and that's not even possible because if you know anything about business, you know that having a niche is really important for speaking to people in the way that they're going to hear best. But I hope that no matter, even if you don't feel like my content applies to you, I hope that you know that I always respect you as a person, as a person created in the image of God. And I'm always open to hearing how you feel about things. And if there's anything I can do to make things, anything that I produce more appropriate and beneficial for you. Okay. I'm going to go, but I hope you all are having a wonderful week. I know June's been a challenging month, but I think we're all going to be better people because of it. And I hope that I can be even a little voice in your ear telling you that, you have the power to make a positive impact on the world, and your health and your mindset should be something that supports your purpose and your pursuit of that purpose. Okay, well, I will look forward to having you guys here next week. Thank you for spending your time with me. I know your time is your most valuable resource, and I don't take that for granted. So thanks for spending the last hour with me, and I will look forward to seeing you here next week on the Fed and Fearless podcast. Take care, everyone. Hey there, Laura Schoenfeld here again. Are you a dietitian or nutrition entrepreneur who wants to start or grow an online business? Are you feeling stuck, frustrated, or even downright scared when you think about taking the next step towards your dreams of entrepreneurship? Trust me when I say that I've been there before. I've been running my own online business since 2014, and I worked with Chris Kresser to help him grow his business starting in 2012. And over the past 8+ years, I've learned a lot and made a lot of mistakes when it came to creating the multiple six-figure business I now run today. And if there's one thing I've learned since starting my business, it's this. You don't have to figure out how to transform your knowledge, expertise, and passion into profitable online courses, digital products, and memberships on your own. I've personally invested over $100,000 in my own business education, mentorship, and coaching. And I can honestly say that I have no idea where my business would be today had I not taken the leap to invest in myself and in my success. I might not be running a business where I get to work with amazing clients every day, helping them solve their biggest health and business challenges so they can live the purpose-driven life they were put on this earth for. Remember, becoming an in-demand expert in your business isn't about being egotistical or selfish. It's about having a deep commitment and a burning desire to help others. And if you're not growing your business successfully, there are hundreds and maybe even thousands of people out there who are missing out on the opportunity to get the amazing help and support that you were born to provide. You're here for a purpose, and if helping people improve their health by running an online business is one of your purposes, then I have an exciting opportunity that'll help you build your business even faster and easier than ever before. My world-class business coach, James Wedmore, is releasing an awesome video series for entrepreneurs called The Rise of the Digital CEO. In this series, James shows you exactly what keeps most business owners stuck and struggling and reveals the 5 areas you need to focus on to overcome whatever is standing in the way of your success. Now, if you don't know James Wedmore, he's a self-proclaimed serial entrepreneur who's built multiple 7-figure businesses in multiple niches. He's also one of my favorite coaches and mentors, and he's helped me completely transform my mindset around business so I could grow my income and impact while also working less and enjoying life more. The financial and time freedom I've experienced has been life-changing, and I want you to have that experience in your business as well. This is your chance to tap into a series of instructional videos that'll show you exactly what you need to blast through whatever's got you stuck and give you the power and confidence to take on the world of online business. And best of all, this video series is totally free. So if you're ready to start taking charge of your business and your life, go to fedandfearless.com/rise to watch these videos before they go away. While you're there, you can also get on the waitlist to learn more about James's amazing online program, Business by Design, which helps struggling service-based coaches and course creators transform their businesses from the inside out so that they can experience the time and financial freedom they desire while having a bigger impact on the world. And if you decide to join BBD under me using one of my links, you'll also receive bonus coaching from me. You'll learn additional tools and strategies that are specific to nutrition and dietitian entrepreneurs who want to start, grow, or scale their business to 6 figures and beyond. I'll be teaching you things like effective sales call strategies, how to stand out online in a crowded market, and how to develop your first or next online nutrition program, and more. If you want to learn more and watch James' free video series, The Rise of the Digital CEO, go to fedandfearless.com/rise. This video series is only available until Thursday, June 25th. So don't miss your chance to learn the business strategies that have changed my life and the lives of thousands of online entrepreneurs. And feel free to DM me on Instagram if you want to find out more about my bonus business coaching opportunities for anyone who joins Business by Design under me. It's time to rise in your online business, and I can't wait to support you on your journey to becoming the confident digital CEO you desire to be.